It's titled that because when we're hearing these horrible things one after the other, it's it's okay and it's even right to feel grief. It's even right to feel overwhelmed. It's even all these feelings that we're talking about are normal. And in fact, I would say that they're healthy feelings and it's healthy to feel these things because the Prophet, I want to say a couple of things. One is that the Prophet ﷺ said to us that we are, the Ummah is like one body. And just like if you think about, and so if one part of the body, a limb of the body hurts, the rest of the body hurts. And so it's important for us to hurt at these events. It's important for us to hurt. And so the first thing I want us to do is I want us to be able to hurt without guilt. I want us to be able to hurt without guilt. And secondly, after the next piece is I want us to remember the communities involved. And I want us, even though we're hurting without guilt, I want us to be strong and remember that as much as we are hurting individually, the communities involved in these tragedies are hurting more. And so I want us to be strong and responsible and mature enough to think about those communities, pray for those communities, and support those communities, and step back and be patient while those communities get it together and get ready to talk to us. So just like a person, so if something that I'm the kind of person, people are different in how they share. I have a couple of different reactions to things. Sometimes when something happens to me, I can't talk about it yet. I need a minute. I need to process it myself and then talk about it. Other times, depending on what happens, I need to talk about it now because I often think while talking. Now, other people I know, including my own husband, my own children, people very close to me, will process. Like sometimes I don't talk to people right away, but that's actually not the most often. Somebody else, like my husband, he can't talk to anybody for maybe 2 days, and then he wants to talk about the whole thing. In the same way, communities are different in how they communicate. And I think we need to be patient while they work out how they're managing their event and how they're communicating the event with us. And yes, sometimes it's so much we become numb, and sometimes it's scary to feel numb because we're not even sure what to do with that. So, in fact, and so the mature feeling of thinking about the community. So we look at the communities and we look to them and wait patiently for them to respond to us. Now, while we're doing that, to help us approach tragedy, and talking here internally, okay? Right now I'm speaking internally. Something that is really helpful to me. Or first, let me ask you, how do you feel about the communication of these 4 tragedies that are listed here? So, Nabara Rahmatullah Alayha, Adams Center, the community. I feel like their community uplifted us all in their forthcomingness. I'm just so grateful to them for letting us be part of their grief and letting us be part of the story that is really their story. I don't know how you feel about it. I think Finsbury and Grenfell, there as well, like with Finsbury, we were able to find heroes. And we found a lot of people on Twitter, at least, talking about heroes of Finsbury. Grenfell I was devastated by Grenfell. And every time a story comes out, I find myself going back to that grief again. It's just, it's this tragedy of neglect there that's really hard for me personally to understand. And then Philander, I'm here in Minnesota, so there's been a lot of community rifts Actually, it's been tough here in the community, so I don't know how well we're doing communicating outside, but it's been tough here as the community feels really disappointed, but yet at the same time recognizes that the justice system in the United States does not help these cases, which is something that we need to talk about in a minute and talk about how we can work on things like that. Okay, so now when we're following all these up-to-date reporting things, always make sure that because I was following them too, and that I think is where we sometimes get numb. And sometimes it's just inundating. It's just like, and that's where it becomes this, oh my God, it's just too much. How is it? How is this? This is Ramadan. I, I don't know about you, but for me, this is Ramadan, and I don't want to be thinking about tragedy in Ramadan. It's like we have a romantic view of Ramadan that it should be about balloons and rainbows and flowers and such things. The Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us the story of our creation. And here is where I want to begin the discussion of where do we go when it's just too much? Where is the place of understanding that we go to? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He created us, He tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah that He showed us to the angels. جعلكم في الأرض خليفة. إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة. I am making in this earth a khalifa. قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the angels, I'm going to create a khalifa on this earth. And the angels respond, are you going to create that which causes chaos and sheds blood? This is a reality of humanity. And this is something that has occurred forever, since the beginning of time. What is happening today is unfortunately not new. It's hard to even imagine that these kinds of crimes, neglect, tragedy, and violence could be something that has happened forever, that the human being has not figured out how to stop it yet. But the truth is that the angels recognize that within us is this very ugly place. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we can become of the asfal safilin, the lowest of the low. So we have to recognize that this is it's possible in our characters as human beings. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun. Indeed, I know what you don't know. And so what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows, what He's showing off to the angels. He's showing us off to the angels as human beings that can be of the greatest example of hope and goodness and right living. And in order for us to find that purpose, the purpose of Khalifa, because when we're shedding blood and when we're causing chaos, we're not fulfilling one of our main purposes on this earth, which is to be responsible. Khalifa. But when we do, then everything changes. Because there's beauty in upholding our responsibility. There's beauty in fulfilling the responsibility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us. So what is our responsibility for? I'll get to that in 1 minute. But it is the responsibility of Khalifa is, I'll get to it right now actually, is at its core that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ma khalaqta al-insana illa liya'budun. Jinn wal ins illa liya'budun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create us except for that we will worship Him. So we have to put these together. That the human being was created to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To serve. And yet we were created as khulafa. You have to bring these together. One is leadership. The other is service, worship. This is the space that Muslims stand in. And this is the space I want you young people to find hope. And all of you, whether young or older, I want you to find hope here in this space. That first of all, we are in our essence, our life purpose is the purpose in that space between finding how to be responsible and finding out how to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we all are Ibad al-Rahman, the servants of the merciful. All of us. And we get tired and overwhelmed because we're human. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, we have to trust a number of things. We have to trust that Allahu Akbar. We say it all the time. We have to trust, first of all, in order to stand strong in this space of Khalifa and Ibad al-Rahman, these two roles of the human being on this earth, in order to stand strong in that space, we need to recognize a couple of things. One is that Allahu Akbar. Allah, we say this all the time. We say it in our prayers. We say it every time we pray. We say it in different times of day. For centuries, Muslims have said it in all different times and different happenings in their day. Allahu Akbar, that means Allah is the greater. That whatever is happening, whatever seems big, whatever terrible criminal or dictator or Islamophobic machine or movement against us feels big, we have to know that in front of Allah, they are small. Small. That in front of Allah, all things, all people, anything is small. I don't care if the whole Islamophobic machine has $60-some million being poured into it. Allahu Akbar. Allah is greater. We have to really know that. Really know it and be sure of it and be certain of it. And I want you to know the truth of it. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us and gave us free will. We will never live in a world that is free of the nature of humanity. The angel saw it. The angel saw it in us. That we would be of those who created chaos and shed blood. Ya Latif. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them that we are also better than that. And can be better than that. And inshallah, all of you will be better than that. And will be able to see better than that in humanity. So that's number one. Allahu Akbar. To know Allahu Akbar to the very core of your being. The second piece to help us stand in that space is something really unique to Ramadan. And that is the word taqwa. So the word taqwa is the thing that we're working on this month. Right? Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, what is the purpose of fasting? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. That we can be of those who have taqwa. So every year, Ramadan comes to bring us back to taqwa. To bring us back to taqwa. To bring us back to taqwa. I went to Jummah prayer today in my local mosque. And Imam Makram al-Amin said something. And maybe others are saying this around as well. But I found this phrase just really beautiful. As we have been fasting, and congratulations for fasting the longest days of the year. As we've been fasting these long days of the year, we've been feasting on, he said we've been feasting on God's word, on the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran. And I'm going to add to that and say we've been feasting on taqwa. Because if you're fasting, you're growing taqwa, period. People have sent me all sorts of messages about how they feel about their fast, how they feel about Ramadan, how Ramadan is overwhelming, etc., this year. But if you are fasting, you are growing taqwa. That's just the way it works. And as you grow taqwa, you become hope. Not you grow hope. You become hope. You become hope because Islam is a religion of community. We are a religion where the Ramadan comes to us for our individual self, right? Ramadan comes as we think about ourselves, and we live in a very individualistic society today. So we're thinking about ourselves and how am I growing or not? How much Quran am I reading or not? How am I feeling or not? How is this affecting me or not? How do I feel about this or not? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remember our first principle, Allahu Akbar. So in our individual growing, we grow together. We grow together, and all together we become an ummah of taqwa. When you are part of an ummah of taqwa, then you become of the Ibad al-Rahman and the Khulafa. Because that's the quality that you need. That's the quality that I need. Because what happens, what is the opposite of taqwa? It's crimes. It's what happened to Grenfell Towers is the opposite of taqwa. People allowed a building to be built and people to be in an unsafe space because they were greedy. Say to yourself, how did that happen? They didn't have taqwa. They didn't have taqwa. In Finsbury, someone drives his van into worshippers. How could anyone think of doing that? They don't have taqwa. Not having taqwa removes a basic quality of being human. And so you become a monster. So without taqwa, you become a monster. And when we see people acting in these ways, whether it's big ways or even smaller ways in our lives, these are people without taqwa. The Philando Castile story here. This is a little bit more complicated story because of there's a whole system of laws and an earlier system of building a police force and building an attitude towards police and an attitude of police towards citizenry and an attitude of police towards people of color and especially Black and Native people that was built originally without taqwa. It now has become the DNA of a system. I have a certain place in my heart that grieves for the law when Muslims, when we left taqwa and we lost power, because power allows you to build institutions. I always think that we're Muslims to be in power today. I'm not saying things would be perfect. There are plenty of Muslims out there that are without taqwa. But the DNA of the institutions would be different because they would start out with taqwa. Even if the people in them don't have, like a mosque. A mosque can be a place that is unfriendly. It can be a place where people don't like it. It can be a place where the women feel really, really shut out. But its DNA is taqwa. So you can go and find a way to fix it. But these other structures, there's lack of taqwa, and so we as an ummah need to think carefully about how we're going to approach the problem of systemic missing taqwa, the DNA that's missing taqwa. And of course, Nabra, rahmatullah alayha. Here we have a brutal murder, and of course, lack of taqwa, lack of humanity, the result of lack of taqwa. The result, how can a human being do such horrible, horrible things? It starts with lack of taqwa. So this month has come to build taqwa in each one of us. Because, and here's a place where we find hope. When we come together as a community, then we become a force to be reckoned with. A force of taqwa, not a force of anger, not a force of frustration. There's no force in anger or frustration. I'm not saying there's not a place for anger sometimes. I'm not saying there's not a place for those feelings. I started out today really affirming that these are real feelings and they're important to have. But when we come together on taqwa, we can have a voice. We as a community have a voice together. When we root down into our purpose, Khalifa, Ibad al-Rahman, together, this is the place where we can move beyond our rage, move beyond our hurt. Some of you said overwhelmed. Other words you said were, look at it again. Nervous. Okay, I didn't talk about nervous yet. Nervous is a little different. But in the space of the purpose of the human being, to be Khalifa, and to be Ibad al-Rahman, that's a place of hope right there that we can hold on to. So nervous, let's talk about nervous. There are young women and young gentlemen who are feeling nervous about being, as Linda Sarsour says, unapologetically Muslim out in the public world. Afraid of what people might say, afraid of violence, afraid of responses and reactions from people of hate. I want to, first of all, again, being nervous says something about how you're feeling. So you need to go in and look at that and say, why am I feeling nervous? How do I need to interact with my inner feeling? Because if you are already wearing a hijab, taking off your hijab is not going to help you stop feeling nervous. Most Muslims are going to look like Muslims, whether they're wearing an identifier or not. And I also want to say, which I said in my Keep on Keeping It On thing, that as a Muslim who wears hijab, as a white Muslim who wears hijab, me, talking about myself, if I were ever to think, do I need to take off my scarf so that I can fit in? That is, it's a sad day when I'm not remembering that the people who are the most oppressed in this society are not Muslims. They're not. They're Native people and Black people. And I'm going to tell you, they don't get to go home and decide to peel off their skin. They don't get to go home and decide that they want to look different so they can avoid. But for you, who looks different for Allah's sake, every time you go out looking different, you're growing in taqwa, you're growing in iman, and you're growing in your level with God. This is a religion, ya habibati. It's a faith. There's akhirah. This dunya is very small. It feels very big and very important. And it is big and it is important, but it shrinks in front of the akhirah. Here in this life, we want to be important. Inshallah, you will be important with Allah. And important here. I have no problem for you to be, inshallah, important here. Inshallah, in peace here. Inshallah, not nervous here. But the akhirah goes on forever. As you stand in this space, and I'm going to keep talking a little bit, but while I'm talking, I'm going to say go ahead and, I'm going to keep talking because I don't like silence in live stream. But go ahead and put questions in the chat box now. If there's something you want to talk about or deal with that I haven't, or you just, if not, that's fine too. But if you have something, then go ahead and put it in the chat box and I'll address it. As we stand in this space of our life purpose, remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has never left us alone. You know, when I became a Muslim in 1985, for some of you, it's like prehistoric history. When I became a Muslim in 1985, right, a couple months before that, I was a Christian. I was a practicing Christian, and then I learned some things about the theology of Christianity, and so I couldn't be a Christian anymore. So I spent a couple of months not being anything. not being attached to any religion at all. And someone asked me, or actually I had an atheist roommate who thought, oh, maybe I'm going to become like her. And so she was kind of celebrating, and I said, listen, I may have left Christianity, but I am not. I have not. I have not and will not be an atheist. I believe in God, and I believe that He did not create us to leave us alone. He has sent us a path to follow. And this is truth. He sent many paths, and He sent them over time. And we are blessed with this path. And this path will give us that space of understanding our purpose. This taqwa that you have, you're tired physically, but on the inside, you are filled with taqwa. You're exhausted. Hey, and if you're not exhausted, I'm just going to say, MashaAllah. Because I think everyone is exhausted. You're exhausted physically, but you might not see that, but inside, you have the strength to uphold the world, to uplift yourself and the people around you, because you have been building taqwa for 28 days. You've been building taqwa, the fuel of your spiritual, your strength, your purpose. You've been building it with taqwa. So here we have Zara saying, I never really felt aware of my hijab until recent attacks, and now I'm super aware. I drive with my windows up and doors locked because I'm aware people might attack me for my hijab. Thank you for reminding us of the ibadah. The hijab is ibadah. I forget that sometimes. Okay, so driving, tying our camel is smart. Tie your camel, everybody. Tie your camel, lock your doors, be aware, take those defense classes if you can. Walk, but let me tell you something, that's not new, okay? In 1984, before I became a Muslim, the women in the United States we were all taught how to walk so we wouldn't be attacked on the streets. I mean, this is not something like, oh, if I take off my hijab, I'm not going to be attacked. There are a million ways to get attacked in the United States of America and in the UK and anywhere else. So, I know that's not what you were referring to, Zara, but I just want to remind you that as you walk on the street and tie your camel, remember that every step you take in that hijab, you are fulfilling your fard, you are fulfilling your obligation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you are stepping one step, one step, one step. Every step on the street brings you one step closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And fills you with taqwa and gives you strength. I think that tying your camel is good. I think being overly concerned about it could get you to a place where it's hard to live. So be careful of that balance. Be careful of that balance. And remember that as you stand in that space, the space of your purpose, that there is hope and strength. And when it's just too much, as a religion, there are also prescriptions of what to do. Something our ummah has really lost touch with, I think, in my experience, and maybe your experience is different, is the other types of prayer. So we talk about salah, and we push each other to pray, and I know Muslims are missing salah all the time too, so maybe just prayer we're missing out on, but the thing that we're missing a lot is dua and dhikr. And when it's just too much, I started out here, and I want to bring us to this space, because the fact that we know that we are in the khulafa and the ibad al-Rahman means that we are looking for the map. Not the pill to cure everything, but the map of how to get to where we want to be. So if traffic is too much, we need a map so we can find another road. I go to school downtown Minneapolis, and Daybreak is also in Minneapolis, but not downtown. The other day, it took me an hour and 15 minutes to drive a 7-minute drive. I am not even joking. And that's because I did not have a map in my head, and my GPS did not know anything either. I never did. Now I have a map in my head. I paid attention, and now I know how to get here without the freeways. We need a map so you don't get stuck when it feels too much. And our map is to reconnect with Allah. Dua and dhikr. And don't belittle dua. Don't say, oh, I'm tired of just praying. I'm going to do something. People are different and people will do different things and be better at this and be better at that. But the dua that you make is never, ever a just. It's never a just dua. It's powerful. Make dua, make detailed dua. Ask Allah to calm your fear. Ask Allah to calm your anxiety. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to not to lessen your burden, but to strengthen your shoulders so you can help other people. So you've been told by relatives that girls' qiyam should be at home. There's fear out there. How beautiful, one of my most beautiful memories is seeing women walking to the mosque to pray when I lived in Syria. One of the most beautiful things that happens here is when I'm praying and the doorbell rings and another woman walks in. I love it. It's not a doorbell, it's a door bell. So the bell rings and the door opens, and every time I can be praying and then another person comes in and goes, the little sound calls. I say, Subhanallah. Yet when we all leave at 1:30, I try to look out and make sure that everyone gets to their car, and so I'm tying my camel, being careful, watching out for people. In fact, last night was the first night I wasn't sure that Sarah got in her car and got home. And I was thinking about it. I thought about it until Fajr, and I was like, I guess she's okay. You had Muna with you, right? Yeah, she had someone with her, so I was calm about that. So, but I've been doing that since we started here. This is not new because of the tragedies that have happened. It's because I'm 50 and I've learned to be careful like that. So I would say that there's no reason to change the way we're living, except for if we are living carelessly and not tying our camels. That we should live, that we should be smart, that we should be, and we do have to be careful on when we're outside. We have to be careful and know how to be outside. As I said, like when we leave, I'm sure that everyone's in their car and good. And on Friday and Saturday night, there's just a bar right down the street from us. On Friday and Saturday night, we are a little bit more cautious and a little bit more careful about our lighting and things like this, and how we're out. We don't advertise, but how we're sort of letting people know who's in here. I was told the Muslim world is upside down as we concentrate on Taraweeh, but Subh in the mosque is much better. Is that the same for women? Well, according to Ibn Hazm, it's the same reward for women in the mosque for any prayer. So, in fact, Ibn Hazm would tell you that whoever finds more difficulty getting to the mosque has more reward. And generally, if you're a mom, that's going to be more difficult for you. But if you're otherwise, so that's the same reward for Ibn Hazm, yes. Or the same reward of praying. As far as Subh in the mosque, the hadith do are stronger about Fajr in the mosque. But I would disagree with the statement or the sentiment that the Muslim world is upside down because people are in the mosque for Taraweeh. In fact, what I would say is, Allahu Akbar walhamdulillah, that the Muslims are being reminded to be Ibad ar-Rahman. Well, we do it every night here, but one night this month we prayed in another mosque, a beautiful, amazing mosque. I didn't even ask what the Taraweeh was going to be like. And when I pray alone, I do long rak'ahs, but when I pray with the people, we do short ones. And so I just assumed that everyone does that. And so we said Allahu Akbar. Oh my God. Oh my God. It was like maybe 10 pages for one rak'ah. And I was just going, first of all, I was like, how are all these people here? MashaAllah. Like the room was packed. 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 I was impressed with my Muslim brothers and sisters that night. I was impressed with them. MashaAllah. And then he said Salam alaikum after the first two rak'ahs, and about 20 people left, probably people who didn't know how long it was going to be, and the rest of them got up. And I looked around that room, they didn't speak Arabic. It's not like, they're Arabic speakers, so they're following the story, which some of you might be saying to yourself right now. No. All different ethnicities. I'm so impressed with I'm impressed with my brothers and sisters this month. I'm impressed with all of us. I'm so proud of the Muslims this month, and I'm happy to be in that state. And I think that's a good place to try to be. When there's a tragedy, look for, there's an old English expression, when there's a tragedy, look for the angels. Look for the angels in the Muslim women and men. The media might not be talking about them, but you're going to find them in the things that they're doing. Question: in my experience, when I or other young people get involved in some social activism, for example, feeding the homeless, sometimes we may go on this Superman, Superwoman mode, where we feel, oh, what will people do without us? We may subconsciously become too reliant on our deeds. Some might postpone or even miss prayers due to being busy with an event. Can you remind us why and how to strengthen our spiritual relationship with God? Okay, that's two different questions, but I guess the first one is more of a comment. You're saying that whenever we're active and choosing our activism and going out in activism, we should always remember our furud. Our furud. So furud means obligation, and any good deed that we do, whatever it is, even if it's bringing tea for your mom, or it's praying tarawih. Like, you don't pray tarawih without praying Isha, right? So anything we do, we have to make sure to do our furud prayers, and our furud prayers are the beginning of our path to Allah. And I'll close with that idea, actually. There's a hadith Qudsi where the Prophet ﷺ tells us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, starts out with, if you become an enemy to my friend, then I have declared war upon you. It's the beginning of the hadith. Not very many people know that this is the connection. The rest of the hadith you're going to know well. And then the Prophet ﷺ goes on and says, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you wish to come near to me, do your farud, and then as you do more nawafil, you continue to do nawafil, nafil, extra prayers, until I become the eyes with which you see with, the ears with which you hear with, etc. So note the connection. If we want to overcome those who are the enemies of God, we have to become of His awliya. Because if we are of His awliya, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala adantuhu bil harb. He's pushing back on all that Islamophobia. We need to hold ourselves up and stand up, and the way to do that is first with the furud. Fulfill all of our furud, all of our obligations, and don't miss them anymore. And then to add to that nawafil, extra prayer. And don't get in your head that this is impossible, I can't do this. No. Every single Muslim should be of the awliya. Just stop missing furud and add some sunnah. There is absolutely no reason. I'm not talking about some kind of, loosey-goosey sainthood here. I'm talking about being of the awliya, the friends of God. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that the way to do that, do your furud and increase in your nawafil. Khalas. Yani fasting and tarawih and reading Quran. Allahu Akbar, there you are. Keep it up. And let's become an ummah that is of the awliya, of the people of God, so that we are strengthened against all the enemies of God and the enemies of good, and the enemies of God are the enemies of good, are those who have left taqwa. Yeah, thank you for joining me today, everyone. I hope that when you feel like it's just too much, that you can ground yourself in that space. Ground yourself in that space of khulafa, ibad ar-Rahman, and Allahu Akbar, taqwa, and grounding yourself in becoming of the awliya. Alright? Ala aini wa rasi. Yalla, have a great day, morning, evening, wherever you happen to be. And we're doing our own event here, Grief Through Action 3. Reminders that I'm supposed to tell you are, waiting for the admins to tell me the reminders. The Khitmah project. Yes, so if you can finish your Quran, people who have, submit your Khitmah at hashtag. How do I submit my Khitmah, guys? Tell me how to do that. Oh, I think the admin's writing it for you over there. Submit your Khitmah. We're up there now. We're almost at 300, and we're going to do it tomorrow night. We're going to do the closing dua for the Khitmah. So join us tomorrow at 6:30 CST. You can request dua. Okay, so you can request dua, and we will be making dua for a long time. Hop on, help us finish the Quran, and then we're going to be making dua together. For the khitmi, we've been doing out loud here in Daybreak, as well as the up to, I think we have over 300 now khitmis around the world of people who have been reading Quran. Add yours, and the Ramadan Khitma Project second open halaqas tomorrow night at 6:30 CST. All right. And secondly, don't forget to go to support.rabata.org and donate this month. I know many of you have been intending to, and you just didn't get around to it yet. So get on over there and get it done while it's still Ramadan, so you can have that extra shine on your fast, and it can clean up any of the little issues, this and that, of your fast that you're not sure of. So the angels can shake your hand on the day of Eid. Don't forget to give your zakat al-fitr, $10 at your local mosque for every member of the family. Okay, don't forget that. That's very important. Has to be given before the Eid prayer for you to confirm your fast. Okay, you've got to do this before the Eid prayer. You can do it today. If you haven't done it yet, do it today. I've already paid mine. Pay it today. You don't have to wait till the Eid prayer. If you get late, you get a flat tire, God forbid, or something like that, you need to get it in. Get that zakat al-fitr in. All right, your local mosque. All right. Are those all of my announcements? And have fun on Eid. And tomorrow we'll talk a little bit about the sunnahs of Eid so that you can fulfill those as well. But one of them is buy new clothes, so you need to hurry up and go get those. Hurry up, get those tomorrow. Get some new clothes. They're telling me to announce the Rabata retreat, but it's actually full. But definitely go on, look online and check it out. Maybe you can get on a waiting list if you want to. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Assalamu alaikum.